Well, good evening or good Monday evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of a podcast that we have put together or putting together for you tonight. This is your girl, Tara. You know me from the Induct Whitney page on Facebook and, of course, our YouTube channel, the Whitney Houston, which is abbreviated TWV. It's been a while since we have done a podcast, maybe a month or two, but a lot has happened since the last show. And boy, do we have some things to talk about with you. This time, I have two of my co-hosts with me tonight. They have hosted with me on other live podcasts through Facebook, and they are very good fans of Whitney's, very knowledgeable, and they help me out a lot on these podcasts because they're very informative. Their name is Terry Young Jr. and Tameka Hutchins.
Hello.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
We're doing well.
Start this off, celebrate our diva.
We're celebrating our diva Whitney Houston, but it doesn't come without talking about a lot of what's going on in the news as of late. We know that the documentary is upcoming. A lot has come out from the documentary. Fans have attended some of the festivals worldwide, like in Australia, and they have written reviews on it, and we're going to share some of that with you. The Bible, the recent selling of Whitney's Bible, the Pusha T album cover, and all of that good stuff, and plus more. So let's go ahead and get this podcast started. Terry, Tameka, they're trying to sell Whitney's Bible.
Well, apparently, this person just happened to own a luxury rental property that Whitney was renting.
Mm-hmm.
So, to his eyes, we don't know whether this person was a Whitney Houston fan or not.
Right.
He's just looking at, okay, I'm trying to make a quick buck.
Right.
And honestly, no one can be mad at him for that. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
But I feel like if I were Whitney's family member or the executor of her estate, I would want to buy this as soon as possible so we could have it.
I agree with that. Yeah,
because from what I understand is he had signed the NDA when she moved in, so he had to actually call the estate and ask, is it okay for him to even sell that Bible? So you guys don't even want that Bible?
Yeah, it's amazing that someone would want to capitalize off something so personal. But from what I know, Whitney did have another Bible that was more personal to her, and I think that one is actually in her museum, her Grammy exhibit museum, if I'm not mistaken. But I will just to let our listeners know who haven't followed this story, I'm gonna read a little bit of it from page 6. I think it was first reported by TMZ, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's where I read it from.
Okay, it was from TMZ. It says, Whitney Houston's Bible could be yours for a righteous $95,000. The chart-topping songstress left behind the religious tome when she moved out of her Newport Beach luxury rental a year before her death, and her former landlord is now putting it up for sale. Now, that's just a little excerpt I'm going to read. I'm not going to read the whole shebang, but it's basically not being sold by the estate. We do want to clarify that. It is being sold by a former, not a former landlord, but a person that she was renting the property from. That
like a beach property.
A beach property. Okay. So, what are y'all thoughts on that? Because $95,000.
Well, as I said, this man is probably seeing this, as a payday.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if he's a Whitney Houston fan or not. So I don't. I'm not necessarily upset with him. Like I said, it's the estate who is not at the gate protecting her legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tameka just said that, he got approval from the estate to sell the Bible. So clearly somebody allowed him to do that. And just that type of reckless disregard for her legacy is what upsets me.
Yes, I can agree with that, and it goes back to a comment I saw a just a casual fan made like a couple weeks ago that, you know, once Whitney died, her estate should have bought up all of the malicious things that were out on the internet to help protect her legacy, like other estates have done with other artists, such as Michael Jackson or Prince or whoever, you know. And I just feel like there hasn't been enough done from her estate's part to protect her legacy. I feel like they're further ruining it. I can't even get the word out right. I'm so pissed. You know, to me, if I'm looking at it from that's how I look at it from my perspective. So, you know, it's just crazy. You know, why wouldn't?
And as I've said before, like in our previous Facebook Lives,
Mm-hmm.
the difference between the estate of Whitney Houston, the estate of like a Michael Jackson, or the estate of Elvis or whomever, is that those people, their estates were left to people who actually valued them.
Thank you.
And to be totally honest, Pat does not value Whitney.
I don't think so.
Who valued Whitney most that were in her life have very minimal say-so. Sissy, her mother, does not have much say-so.
I think so too. You know, the fact.
Robin does not have any say-so.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I feel like as much as we drag him, and rightfully so, because he should be dragged, I feel like Bobby Brown would even handle her legacy a bit more respectfully than Pat does.
Well, that one I don't know. That one I don't know, because Bobby has been lying his ass off here and there everywhere since the death of Whitney Houston. I'm just putting pretty much the blame towards her and taking his hands out of anything that involved in her dismissal.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, Bobby shows himself one way, and I feel like he really is that way all the time. Whereas Pat shows herself one way to the public, and then you have these recordings of her saying something different.
Well, Pat is like she has like this persona to her that's very artificial. And if anybody is superficial, it is Pat Houston. And you know, she I don't know if any of you have ever heard Pat speak. She's very soft spoken, she's very approachable. But behind all of that is this divisive woman to me. Like, she has an agenda.
And I also feel like Pat suffers from delusions of grandeur. I think that I'm just I
agree.
feel like Pat really believes that if it were not for Whitney Houston, that the public would still be interested in her, and that's just not the case.
And where did that sound?
Because let's just be real. Outside of Whitney, what have you done? What have you done?
Exactly.
Nothing.
Exactly.
Can you name any other artist that Pat has represented as a
Not
manager?
none. Zero.
Can you name any other
none.
business
She has
that Pat
no
has started
experience
that was
whatsoever.
not somehow related to Whitney? Like what? Name one thing that Pat Houston has done that has not been related to Whitney.
Nothing.
Man,
She's
Terry,
done
let
nothing.
me tell you,
Yeah, I'm just saying.
this reminds me when I was reading, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but John Houston, when all that came out with the recordings and the text message with Bobby Christina basically putting Pat on blast, he said the exact same thing. He said that she was so into, you know, the limelight and being this person, but they had nothing to do with you. Like he said, John Houston, Gary's son from his previous marriage. I think, is that his name, John? I believe.
His name. Oh, you're talking about Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan Houston. That's his name. If I'm not.
Right.
I think it's Jonathan. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
He was saying that she was the main one when she got engaged, talking about all these celebrities that were gonna come to the wedding, and he was thinking like I was thinking, like they're not coming to see you. You got all these celebrities coming because you're been into this family, spirited by this diva. They don't care they care about Whitney Houston. Like you said, she has nothing that's not connected to Whitney Houston. Everything that she has, anything that she has to stand on is because of Whitney Houston.
And I mean, I feel like honestly that would be fine if she knew that and she acknowledged that. But my problem is that she did
right by her. She doesn't even do right by her.
Right. Yeah, no. But I'm saying, like, if you acknowledge that, hey, you know, the reason I'm famous is because I'm Whitney Houston's sister-in-law. I worked for her. I'm gonna respect her legacy. That's fine. But for whatever reason, Pat has this illusion in her mind that someone cares about her other than the executor of Whitney's estate, and that's just not the case.
I feel the same way, and I feel some type of way because, you know, you have Whitney who's gone, her daughter is gone, and you have Pat and her daughter who have stepped up and are on the red carpet doing interviews. A lot of us fans feel some type of way about that. Estate holders are supposed to be in the background. Do we ever see Michael Jackson, Selena, or princes or etc. executors on the red carpets and trying to write books?
We see Selena's people because they are her family.
That's true. But even then,
they are her parents.
Yeah, but even with that, you don't always see them trying to hog some type of limelight or try to make certain family members famous.
Yeah, when Selena's name is in the media, like an anniversary of her death or something, or, you know, somebody is talking about how J-Lo got her start in Selena, they will talk to her family. But you don't see them trying to use Selena as a vehicle to become famous themselves.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of us get from Pat Garland or Houston, or it's really Garland, but it's Garland. It's Garland.
Actually, let's be real. Her first name isn't Pat. It's Mary.
But yeah, I feel that way as well.
I was saying you mean Marion Garland. Her first name ain't even Pat.
See, I didn't even know that. And honestly, I had no idea who Pat was until Whitney passed away.
A lot of us didn't.
I knew who Robin was. I knew who Aunt Bay was. I knew who Sissy was. I knew the brothers' names. I didn't know a whole lot about them. But I had no idea who Pat was until Whitney passed away. And she just started getting in all these interviews and trying to just get on Oprah and do all this stuff.
I feel the same type of way, and you know, it's just going back to the whole thing with the Bible. I guess the reason why he marked it at that price is because Whitney wrote down some personal things or you know, highlighted some things in the Bible that she added in there that makes it more personable. So I guess that's why he felt.
And even if she did, the fact that, you know, this belonged to Whitney Houston, somebody would have still paid that amount. Because I know when the live album came out, my friend Ricky Kynes, who's a member of the Whitney Warriors group, we had a viewing party for the live album over to his house. And one of his friends was over there, and we were just kind of talking and joking around. And they were like, you know, they say you bought the bodyguard helmet offline. And we were like, below key is probably like $5,000 just for that helmet. So anything that Whitney Houston touched is lucrative.
Most definitely. But I guess with the fact that she wrote in it proves that it was hers and stuff like that. Because if she wouldn't have written in it, and he would have said, "Oh, this is Whitney Houston's Bible," how would he have proved it? You know what I'm saying? Whitney had a distinct handwriting. I don't know if y'all ever seen it, but it's very beautiful, actually. She had a very beautiful handwriting.
Absolutely.
And they have pictures of it of the Bible on TMZ, but you know, we'll link you guys to that as well under the video. You can link. If you haven't followed the story or heard about the story, you could click on the link below the video and it'll take you to the story and you can see the pictures and everything. So what are you guys' final thoughts on this Bible?
My final thoughts on the Bible is that, you know, it's out there. It's not really anything that anyone can do about it.
Mhm.
I just hope that at the end of the day that the Bible ends up in the hands of someone who truly loves and honors Whitney.
Exactly.
That's really all I can say about it.
Exactly.
I feel the exact same way. I feel like I hope whoever has the Bible appreciates it and honors it and you know what I mean, put it in the place where it deserves. I want it to go in the deserving hands. I hope that maybe the state one day will wise up and do better regarding her legacy and put her image out there. I hope that one day they will become more thoughtful and more aggressive in how she's presented out to the world.
Exactly.
Because even though we know that Pat has ill intent, we know that Pat ain't shit. Being totally honest.
She's not, and you're not wrong.
Definitely not wrong.
We know that Pat ain't shit. We know that she's an opportunist. We know that she views Whitney as a come up. But even with that, like if I viewed someone as a come up, I would still want to keep their name intact. I would still want to keep their name pristine. You know what I'm saying? Because if they continue down the road that they're going, it's like, okay, here's another drug documentary. Here's another picture of a bedroom. Here's another story about dysfunction. So, what else is there? And while you're trying to dirty up her name and spit on her name and allowing all these to happen, you won't cut your coins out.
And you know what? That is so true, Terry, because that's what's really annoying me. It's like they always say a bird in the hand beats two in the bush because it's kind of like, okay, oh, we got something common, huh?
Okay. Okay.
And I just noticed that when I was just thinking about my point. But when you think, I say that to say because, okay, right now you're thinking about the money you can get right now. Like, it seems to me like they're reaching. 1 minute, oh, we're going to say any and everything to protect her name. We're going to deny. But when that proved out to be as lucrative, now they want to put out all these, like you said, drug stories, things of that nature, where if you just preserve her legacy and record your money up to continue to grow throughout the year. If you just grabbing that straw, whatever is convenient or whatever is at the moment, like you said, you're going to cut off their coins at the end of the day.
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm not one of those delusional fans that will sit here and say, oh, well, you know, Whitney never did drugs. But at the same time, it's like, why do we need to know the specifics about who she bought it from, how she did it, where she did it? How does that celebrate her? How does that further her legacy? How does that garner her more fans? Like, I just don't understand.
That's what I want to know that as well. And if I had if I had $100,000 and it was an extra $100,000, I would definitely buy that Bible. I would love to. I wish I had the money to buy all of these Whitney Houston memorabilia and things like that. You know what I'm saying? I would love to own it. Anything that she had her hands on, to be honest with you. But yeah,
To be honest, guys, I have a Whitney Houston CD. She signed my CD, and I would never ever sell that. So that's so funny that people are just whatever they have of hers, they're ready to sell it. And it's like, here I am, just a girl from Detroit, and I just don't want to sell anything.
Because you are a fan, and you really truly treasure Whitney.
That's correct.
And we don't know, what level of fan he was. To him, it's just a payday. And honestly, like if I owned a house and somebody left a Lionel Richie or just some random person stuff there, I'd probably sell it too.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, Terry. That's why I said I agree with you on. Hey, if he wasn't the biggest fan and he saw a payday, I would do it too. It's up to the state to kind of, like you said, keep this under control. It's up to them to kind of preserve her legacy, and they're doing a horrible job.
Yes, I feel the same way. Okay, well, in other news, ladies and gentlemen, The world has lost one of its best travelers who traveled around the world eating different foods from different cultures, Anthony Bourdain. And I actually was a big fan of his shows, and it was found out that he committed suicide and he had a bad drug addiction. And that part about him I didn't know. But we just want to talk about how the media treated Whitney and her addiction and how they blasted it all over everywhere versus how they're handling Anthony Bourdain in a more respectful way. What do you guys think about this?
I knew that Anthony Bourdain had substance abuse issues for a while. I remember reading an interview where he actually admitted to it. And I even remember on his show, Parts Unknown, that he said something about, just being in a hotel and just drinking way too much liquor or whatever. So I've known for a while that Anthony Bourdain had substance abuse issues. And I feel like most people who follow him have known that. But the difference to me between the way his death has been handled and the way Whitney's death was handled is that the media, and just being frank, white America has been able to celebrate Anthony Bourdain, and as they should, been able to celebrate his traveling all over the world, introducing people to different foods, being an activist, and all these great things about Anthony Bourdain without feeling the need to, I don't want to say minimize it, but without feeling the need to make sure that everybody's listening knows that, Anthony Bourdain did cocaine, as Anthony Bourdain was an alcoholic. Whereas when Whitney died, I'm not going to say that people didn't talk about her talent, because a lot of people did. But I feel like her drug addiction was talked about as much, if not more, than her talent. And ever since she's been gone from this earth, just, the drug addiction, the struggles, and all these things have just been an ever-present part of her story. Whereas Anthony Bourdain has been allowed to be more humanized in his passing and allowed for his wins to be celebrated more so than just the struggles. And he hasn't been reduced to the sum of his demons. And it's not just Anthony Bourdain, because when you watch a documentary about Janis Joplin, you know what I'm saying? People talk about her as this brilliant musician, this great songwriter, just this folklore superstar, which she was. But you don't see her being reduced to what Whitney has been reduced to by a lot of media outlets. And it just shows that as a black woman, Whitney was sort of burdened with, breaking all these stereotypes, with being a representative of her race, with, being this pristine girl who sang gospel. And because she fell short of these things that were put up on her, even though she didn't ask for it, people won't even let her be human. So, Tameka, what's your take?
Well, I totally agree with you. Like you said, particularly with Anthony Bourdain, I really, we've talked about this before, Terry, about how a lot of other, like you said, let's be frank, white artists who had similar situations in regards to great talents, but have had their ups and downs with drugs and, succumb to drug addiction to some form or fashion. They are they're held to this standard. Yes, they talk about their addiction, but their talents are spotlight. Even Amy Winehouse. I just recently watched the Amy Winehouse documentary. It was so good. Yes, they talked about her dysfunctional marriage. Yes, they talked about the drugs, but they talked about her brilliance, how she was a brilliant child prodigy, and how she grew into this amazing singer.
Correct.
Same thing with Anthony Bourdain. Like you said, they're talking about how he was this world traveler, how he exposed us to different types of cultures, how he was an activist. And yes, they talk about the drug addiction and mental health and things of that nature, but they just shine such a more positive light, and they make you want to be more empathetic to him. And even the lady who just passed, her last name is Spade.
Kate Spade, yeah.
Yes.
Kate Spade, thank you. Kate Spade. And I'm throwing her in there too because I'm not particularly sure if she had a drug addiction, but
I never heard of her dealing with any substance abuse or anything.
Me either, but the thing about it is how even they're really sensitive about mental health. Like, how do we know that Whitney didn't have some type of mental health thing where she could have been depressed or manic depressive, but no, all they didn't want to do is say, oh, she was a drug addict, cracked this way.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh my God, everyone, we must really reach out to these people. Mental illness is real. Why
it is, and it's
consideration.
To me,
right,
for me, it's a double standard. It's contradictory. With Whitney, it's never. Drug addiction is a disease, first and foremost. People need to know that. It is classified as a disease. And when it comes to Whitney Houston and people's approaching her with her addiction, it's like they don't look at it from that point of view. They just look at it as a woman who threw it all away. I mean, why can't they go into deep depth about why this woman probably turned to drugs? Why isn't she's shown any sympathy? Why she has to be thrown under the bus? Why does she have to be a crackhead or crack whore and all of the stuff that they call her? I'm not necessarily saying that these are things that the media says, but they might as well with the way they portray her. You know what I'm saying? Her achievements.
Exactly, and it's not just the media. It's social media. What I always say about social media is that the great thing about social media is that it gives a voice to everyone, and the terrible thing about social media is that it gives a voice to everyone. Because during the few weeks when Whitney died, I cussed out so many white people on Facebook. I really did.
It was crazy.
I wish I would have known you did. I would have got my life.
Right. Because it's like, oh, well, we don't want the flag to be lowered for her. Why not lower it for our troops or whatever? I'm like, so where were y'all when they were cutting funding for homeless troops and all this?
Thank you.
So that's just a very bad faith argument to say that I don't want the flag being lowered for this black woman.
But let me tell you.
I'm going to use whatever I have, in this case, the fact that she happened to deal with drug addiction.
But you know what? I'm glad you brought that up about the flag, lowering the flag and everything, because I got into it with quite a few people during that time after Whitney died and the governor decided to do that. First and foremost, people need to know Whitney did a lot for the city of Newark. She invested millions of dollars into housing, into the school system. And so she deserved to have that flag lowered for her. I wonder, all of these people who were complaining about them lowering the flag for Whitney, what have they done for the state of New Jersey? What money have they put up?
Exactly. And not only that, but you're saying that, we need to celebrate the troops and not Whitney, but you sitting up voting for the same politicians who are cutting fundings for troops who are out on the street homeless. So
thank you.
It's just a very bad faith argument to say, I don't want this black woman to be celebrated. I feel bad because whiteness didn't allow me to make anything out of myself, but yet this black woman overcame racism and sexism in order to be one of the biggest selling artists in the world.
Exactly.
So I want to come minimize her.
That's how I took it, and I felt some type of way about it, and it just goes to show you how small-minded people are, and they're not aware. And even if they were aware, they still probably wouldn't care. They would probably still have the same opinions and thoughts. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Did I say that right? But yeah, it was disgusting, some of the things that were being said towards Whitney, and talking about it in conjunction with Anthony Bourdain's death and RIP to Anthony and everything like that. But it
No,
just goes to
it's no
show.
shade to Anthony Bourdain. I was a big fan of Parts Unknown. But
Right.
I'm just saying that, and I'm not saying that Anthony Bourdain should not have had the same compassion, should not
Hmm.
have had compassion extended to him. All I'm saying is, why wasn't the same compassion extended to Whitney?
It wasn't, and even when you look at her male counterpart peers that are the same race as her, like Prince and Michael Jackson,
Absolutely.
even they were. I mean, to an extent, Michael Jackson. Yeah, they talked about his addiction with sleeping, going under the sleeping anesthesia or whatever. Yeah, yeah. What was it called?
It was propofol. It was
Yeah,
like
propofol. Yeah, but
it was like
I just feel
really
like
helping him
that.
to get to sleep, and that was literally what like led to his death. That was literally why he had a
Mhm.
heart attack. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right. And the same thing with Prince. Nobody knew Prince had an addiction to what are they called, opioids or opiates? I don't want to be saying it wrong.
Opioid.
Yes, I would have never known, and I guess he had an OD and it did something to his heart and he collapsed and died. You know what I'm saying? They had just because these people are celebrities, have access to anything they want in the world, doesn't mean they don't have human problems. You know what I'm saying? And they're held to this certain level and standard that people think if you pinch them, they won't hurt. No, they're human just like us, and they go through everyday human things. The only difference is they're famous and they have a little more access to things than the normal everyday person would. But I just feel like Whitney has always gotten the short hand of the stick when it came to her addiction.
Absolutely, even within the black community, absolutely.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like you said, Michael Jackson and Prince have not nearly been dragged to the degree that Whitney has within the black community.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I find that a lot of the hatred that Whitney got after her death was from black men. Sadly, it was this one.
Yes.
On the day of her funeral, I saw a couple of dudes like, oh, so now y'all see it wasn't Bobby's fault. Or there was this one guy like, oh, I believe she had sex with Kevin Costner on the set of The Bodyguard. Just because Kevin Costner was praising her. He couldn't praise her because of her talent. He didn't praise her because of, what she brought to the movie. But he had to have fucked her in order to speak of her in a generous manner. And I just had a huge problem with that. So absolutely, within the black community, there's a double standard too.
I agree. And black people sometimes can be their worst own enemy against their own kind. And I've seen, like I said, like you just said, Terry, I've seen a lot of that with our own people towards Whitney. And a lot of times they would sit there and lead the way with other races of people calling her a crackhead. You see what I'm saying? It's disgusting.
Yep.
It's disgusting, but I don't want to turn this into a racial or race issue because Whitney was for everybody. She was a global icon.
She was for everyone, absolutely. But when you are dealing with a black artist, particularly a black woman artist, race and gender are always going to come into play somehow.
Correct. So, you guys, let me get your final thoughts on this whole thing about how Whitney was treated versus like the likes of Anthony Bourdain and with addiction.
Well, it just shows, the biases that America has, and it just shows that in spite of being one of the most beautiful women to have ever lived, in spite of being, well spoken, in spite of being the greatest vocalist to have ever picked up a microphone, period.
Yes.
In spite of coming from a good family and just all these things that Whitney had, at the end of the day, because she was a black woman, much of America, black America, white America, the media just will not allow her the same humanity that they will other people.
I agree. And what about you, Tameka? What are your final thoughts on the situation?
Well, I definitely totally agree. I mean, again, I just personally think it's a shame that we have other artists who went through similar trials and tribulations, and their artistry is still held in high regard without having to be without them having to be completely torn down, and they get some sort of empathy. And like I said, this not even just a race thing, because even within our own race, we see that, you know, some celebrities, some artists are treated and held in a higher regard than her. But you know what I think? I think that a lot of times, when you think of somebody, like you said, who was one of the biggest selling female artists of all time, who had beauty that graced millions of covers, and who could sit up there and still have a homegirl conversation with you without being, you know what I mean? It's kind of like she was like everything. She could have a great conversation.
She was truly every woman.
She was. She was every woman.
So
it's all in me.
It irritates me to know that, like, really, she could do any and everything, and for her just to be reduced to a crackhead, and I'm like, is it because she could just, you know, outside of the makeup and the house, and she could bear down and come on with some jeans and a t-shirt and sit up in the hood and just kick it with you?
That's right.
You know, at the same time.
I'm telling you, whenever a black woman reaches that level, somebody feels the need to reduce her, because it wasn't just Whitney. Because even today with Diana Ross, people will feel the need to say, oh, well, you know, she grew up in the projects, just to try to bring her down a notch.
Right.
You know
it's like deminimize their level of success in any way that they can. And, you know, there's a lot of crabs in the bucket type of things going on when it comes to black artists who reach a certain level, especially a black female artist, you know. And I feel like in a way that in the new generation, Beyonce is kind of experiencing those kind of things that Whitney and Diana Ross went through before her time. You know what I'm saying? But I you know, I'm not really into today's generation, so I can't speak on that at first hand like that, because I don't follow it.
I think with Beyonce, because, you know, Beyonce came from a middle class home. Nobody can say, oh, you know, Beyonce has a public drug addiction or anything like that. They'll say, oh, well, you know, Beyonce performs in a sexually provocative manner. Oh, she wears tight clothes or any of this type of bullshit.
Or she doesn't want to be black because she wears blonde hair, you know, things.
Whoever the biggest black female artist is, people are always going to try to shade them.
It's always that way.
The only person who ever managed to kind of sidestep it was Janet. And that was only up until, you know, the whole Super Bowl incident happened.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it was a little bit of that going on between her and Madonna, but not so much as it was with Whitney. You know what I'm saying? It was, Whitney, you know, Whitney to me was on a bigger level than Janet. So and a lot of people, Janet grew up around Motown and the whole Jackson 5 thing. So it's kind of like people looked at Janet and saw, oh, well, you know, she grew up with the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson is her brother. She grew up around the Motown sound and all of this. So she was a little more accepted.
The thing with Janet is because, you know, so much went down with her family, Janet kind of got the reputation of being the normal Jackson.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So, you know, it is what it is, but, you know, it's just biased and unfair to treat Whitney this way. And if anything was to come from this documentary, which I do not support, which we will be talking about soon in this podcast, is that people do walk away feeling some type of sympathy and understanding why she did or turned to drugs. Okay, so on to our next story, ladies and gentlemen. Terry and Tameka, Kanye West and Pusha T.
Well, I don't know, man. But the internet is calling their album a flop.
Well, let's give our
12,000 physical copies.
Well, let's.
And, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
to be totally honest, until this album came out, I didn't even know Pusha T was still doing it.
Me neither, but
It was like in my sophomore year of high school, I remember the song by Clips Grinding, and after that, I haven't heard anything else about Pusha T.
Well, Tameka, do you want, before we get into talking about this whole Kanye and Pusha T thing, do you kind of want to give our listeners like a little background of, just in case they didn't follow the story? Because we have to understand, Whitney does have fans outside of the United States who doesn't follow this, type of entertainment news that's cultured to the hip-hop community. But, maybe we can give them a little backstory to let them know what we're talking about.
Okay, so for all you guys who don't know, we're here to tell you. Okay? Let's see. We're going to start back from a few weeks ago. Pusha T had an album getting ready to release. Everything was already set. He already had the album cover. Everything was ready for release. Kanye West calls him at 1:30 in the morning talking about they're not going to use the original art cover, that he wants to use the cover of Whitney's bathroom photo. Now, this photo was taken by Whitney Houston's sister-in-law at the time, Tina Brown. Which is Bobby Brown's sister.
Mm-hmm.
She took the picture back in 2006. Apparently, I'll just say this, allegedly at the height of the drug addiction, and so she took it then. We don't know if it was when Whitney was there or when she wasn't there. That we don't know. We do know it was her bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so Pusha T said, no, I don't want to do it. He said, no, the people need to see this picture when they listen to this music. And Kanye spent, I believe,
$85,000 for the photo, for the rights to use it.
But yet he can't keep the nonprofit Donda's house up.
Yes, exactly.
Right. I was thinking the same thing because I was following that story too, and I said the exact same thing. That's what kept going through my mind. I was following the story with that whole Donda's house thing coming out, and then Kim and started hurting me. I'm like, you need to shut up because it already made it look worse. Like,
I just
like you said, the fact that he could spend $85,000 on a photo, but can't make sure that his mother's foundation continues to thrive is just sickening. But however the case, they spent the money on the photo. It was a lot of backlash.
A lot of people came to Whitney's defense saying, how could Kanye do something so disgusting through a time when she was going through so much? And, it's just, it was in bad taste. It was inconsiderate to Whitney's mother and her family. I particularly like to point out her mother because she's still here. She's an elderly woman. And the fact that Kanye West was in this woman's face hugging and talking to her at the 2012 BET Awards. And you turn around and do this, something like this, is disgusting. On all levels.
Yep.
And so, it's been said.
So now,
disrespecting her. I'm just sick of it.
yeah, and so now, this week, the numbers are out for Pusha T's album.
Oh, wow. Physical copies only sold 12K.
12K, ladies and gentlemen.
Including digital, it was 72K, which can be either way. It can be considered mediocre. It can be considered kind of good this day and age. But
I would consider it.
The streets, the internet is calling it a flop.
I would say.
What y'all think?
I would say without the photo and the controversy that surrounded it, it probably would have sold 3,000 physical copies. But Whitney's name helped him sell at least some more copies of that album.
And that just shows that even in her controversy, even when people try to come for her, shit on her, Whitney just her name just rings bells.
It does.
Because even when like these stands, these Lamb Beehive members or whoever try to bring up her drug addiction, I'm like, but look, her Crack is Whack interview was seen by more people than your fave newest single.
Thank you, Terry. You better say it. You say that again, Terry. I want them to hear you say that again.
The Crack is Whack interview is more iconic than a lot of folks' faves entire disc.
Thank you. What?
And look, you're right. Cause I'm glad you guys both pointed that out, because that was my point. Like, okay, let's be the devil's advocate and say that is a success in this day and age. Let's just say, let's give it to Pusha T and say, okay, for the first week, that's good. Even with that, how did he get those sales on Whitney's name? Even Kanye knew that. Why do you think he took that album cover off and replaced it with that in the final hour? Because he knew he needed that extra push to get them sales. Kanye's album just did good. But you want to know why? It's standing on all that controversy from Trump to Whitney.
Right.
To boost his sales. No one's stupid around here. You know.
Exactly. Because
going back to that whole thing about her name ringing bells, I gotta say one more thing. Not only the Crack is Black, but people talk about that being Bobby Brown thing. Do you know so many people watch that show? You know, so many people got their lives that got iconic Whitney things that they still use today for watching that show. Even though everybody said that wasn't her greatest moment, people still be making fun like
exactly. It's a part of her legend.
Come on.
It's documented inside her legend, I would say. It's a part of her legend. And, you know, even if you don't like it, you know what I'm saying? It's still, I mean, it's just still out there, and it's still pretty much...
Everything related to Whitney Houston, be it negative or positive, has had a huge impact.
It has.
Those Deborah Wilson sketches from Mad TV are some of the most memorable sketches from Mad TV.
It is. It is. And, you know, before we go into our next topic, you know what I'm saying? I just want to say this because we can't do a Whitney podcast without listing some posthumous achievements she has had. For anyone who wants to say Whitney Houston is irrelevant, I'm going to shut you down right now. Okay? Because I think it was the beginning of the year or the late 2017, the Bodyguard soundtrack album was certified 18 times platinum, which is the biggest selling female album of all time worldwide. Also, I Will Always Love You was certified 7 times platinum, which is the biggest selling single of all time by a female artist. It has I think it's 3 million or 4 million physical copies, or 3 or 4 million digital, making her the biggest selling female artist. The biggest selling single by a female artist of all time. Also, her music video, I Will Always Love You, it reached over 500 million views, which makes her the first female artist with a video released from the 90s to reach over 500 million views on Vivo. Her Ultimate Collection album, which was only released in Europe, was certified 5 times platinum by the BPI, which is the British version of the RIAA. And other things have happened since her death in 2017 and 2018 to then going down to 2016. So for anyone to say Whitney Houston is irrelevant, you have another thing coming, because people still have an interest in Whitney. They're still making documentaries about her. They're still making movies about her. They're still wearing her t-shirts. There was a recent picture of, what's his name? Scott Disick from the Kardashians. He was just wearing a Whitney t-shirt the other day. Toni Braxton wore hers. Sam Smith had his. The list goes on.
And let me just say this. One day I was getting off the train on my way to work. There was this hood nigga. I'm talking about with Tim's on that had on a Whitney Houston t-shirt. So that just shows her impact was.
Well, you know what, Terry?
You got thugs. You know, like big, like 6'4" niggas that mug people up that stood up and Whitney Houston t-shirt on.
Terry, if I was you, I would have stopped that dude and asked him, "Can I take his picture?"
I would have if I wasn't like rushing to get to the office. You know?
I know, I understand that, but wow, that's amazing. See, Whitney is she's loved. No matter what people say about Whitney, she is loved. She is loved. And she's well respected in the industry. Well respected and highly regarded. But that brings us...
I love to hear Tony talk about him because it'd be so funny because when she talks about it, she always talks about how they became close during the way in the Excel era, and she learned so much from her.
Exactly.
The industry and everything.
Exactly. Tony always speaks highly of Whitney. I mean, all of the...
And it's so funny because even after Whitney kind of low-key shaded her one time.
What did Whitney say? What did she say?
Because it was a concert here in Philly one time during the Bodyguard era where Whitney, because there's a video on YouTube of her kind of mixing a bit of All the Man I Need in with Tony Braxton.
Breathe Again.
Well, apparently she did that here in Philly, and one night she was like, "Oh yeah, you know that's some new little girl says," or whatever, something like that. Just being kind of like playfully shady towards Tony, but Tony still loves her. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you guys ever paid attention, but you know, last year Tony was honored at the Songwriting Awards, and leading up to that, for asking all these questions, and they asked her hidden talent, and they said she was like, "Well, you know, I think I can rap." And so she started busting out this rhyme. And the first part of her rhyme was, "I learned the game from Whitney, so you can never check me." I said, "Oh my God."
I remember that. I
Wow, that is crazy. That is crazy. And I want to go ahead and go into our final topic of the night before we wrap things up, is the Whitney documentary. Now, we've talked about the documentary on podcast through Facebook, but we never did talk about the documentary on YouTube, like on our podcast for YouTube. And for those of you who have been living under a rock, yes, there's a authorized documentary hitting theaters on July 6th called Whitney, which is directed by Academy Award winning director Kevin McDonald, and it's approved and authorized by Whitney's estate. Now the reviews, the film started opening up at Cannes Film Festival back in May, and reviews started coming out, and the headlines were really sad, I should say, from the Dee Warwick allegations of molesting Whitney and Gary as children, and to Whitney abandoning Bobby Christina as a baby, and all of this stuff. And I just want to let everybody know that some fans have went and saw the movie as recent as yesterday, and fans are starting to give their reviews, which really pales in difference between their reviews and the critics' reviews, who are raving about the movie. And I come to learn that critics rave about things that are dark and juicy anyway, but what the fans are saying are totally different from what the critics are raving about. And that's what we want to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. And before we get into detail, I want to read off a fan review. Terry and Tameka, and then we can get into talking about the documentary. Okay, is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay, this review was written, I don't remember their name, but they saw the film a few days ago at the film festival in Australia. It says, "Well, guys, I saw the Whitney documentary. I will give a general overview. First off, Can I Be Me, which was the other documentary, had more music and performances than this. This was quite similar to Can I Be Me, but at least Can I Be Me had the concert footage to give it some excitement when there was a lot of talking going on. This was mostly all talking in this documentary. And yes, it talks very little about Whitney's music. It was so dry. There aren't any new performances or songs, but no new recordings or concerts, etc. Just some behind the scenes home video footage. You've seen most of it in the trailer. There wasn't even, let's see here, it says there wasn't even the new mix of I Want to Dance with Somebody from the trailer, and that was not featured in the movie either. What it really does is focus on the dysfunction of Whitney. It paints a very bleak picture of Whitney's final years. I am kind of bummed this is the cinematic release and not Can I Be Me, because at least Can I Be Me had the concert footage so people could see the artistry up close on the big screen. I am glad I saw Can I Be Me on the big screen. This movie here, the Whitney movie, is quite dark. You wonder if the estate are still holding back any new recordings. This documentary wants to explore the problems. I must say I felt a bit beat after watching it. I felt down. There's some confronting stuff. I felt delusioned, not about Whitney, but about the business, even about the family. There was very little joy in the documentary. Do I feel I understand Whitney more now? I guess a little bit. It kind of shows you how bad things got. But what I feel now is enough about all of that. Why make a movie for the big screen and not show celebrating off her artistry? I feel I know her well enough through her voice and her music, and that's what I wanted the general audience to be seeing, and not all of this downfall stuff. I gotta keep ruminating about all of this, y'all. I might add more later about the documentary because it was a lot to process. It's better just to watch Whitney in concert and listening to her recordings. And I guess that's the end of the review. And I guess this fan does, from reading that review, he didn't like it. He didn't like the movie. And that's just some of the few.
And from what I've heard about it, I totally agree with him. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't feel like, people need to sanitize Whitney and act like she was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't feel like people need to act like drug addiction and dysfunction was all there was to her either.
That's correct.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't have a problem with them including her struggles, with family members telling some stories.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't need to be the whole point.
It doesn't. And ladies and gentlemen, it's just, this documentary doesn't seem like the type of documentary the fans were expecting. Now, I'm going to say, as a Whitney Houston fan, we know that any story told about her is going to implement the drug use because it's a part of her story. But it doesn't have to be the whole story or the part of the story that takes over everything. I mean, a lot went amiss in this documentary. There was also a lot of cutting of certain interviews by certain people that were left out of the documentary, such as Narada Michael Walden and CeCe Winans. They cut.
Wait a minute, they cut out CeCe?
Yes, I remember when CeCe did an interview maybe about a year ago, and she said she was doing an interview for an upcoming official Whitney documentary. I remember her saying, they asked her, well, why are you doing this? And she said, because I felt since like this is going to be the authorized one, this is the one I need to be a part of. And I guess her part didn't make it into the film. And neither did Narada's, because Narada wanted to talk about Whitney's talent and her voice, and Kevin didn't want that.
See, this is what stuff that irritates me. Like how we were, last week we were on the podcast and we were reading his interview about how he really didn't have that much of an interest until he started talking to the family and realized that it was some more juice and dirt into the story. Then that's when he got interested. And it's just like, this is just disgusting. And then just the fact that, okay, you have this documentary, and I'm not opposed to documentaries being, the actual, the authorized story. Don't have that problem at all. But my thing is, I'm just not oblivious to the fact that we know the documentaries are cheaper to make. So either way, the nigga's about to make money hand over fist. production for the movie. They have to hire actors.
Mm-hmm.
They have to hire makeup artists. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So they're gonna make money off this regardless because they took the cheap way out.
Yeah.
Sit up here and exploit her legacy yet again. And
exactly.
this director definitely didn't help us. Didn't help it. And the state, they didn't put any stop to it. I'm pretty sure they done seen it by now, and they haven't. They're letting it continue to come out. So hey, I'm again disgusted.
Absolutely. And like I said from the very beginning, this man does not care about Whitney's legacy.
No.
He was looking to make a movie that people would come and see.
Right.
And as I said earlier in the group, I really wish that the documentary could have been made by Spike Lee.
I said the same thing. I said someone.
We know that Spike Lee really loved Whitney, that he respected her, and he actually had reached out to her about being in movies before she
Right.
was Bodyguard.
Exactly. And this movie, I felt like this documentary should have been done by someone who had a passion for Whitney and her talent and her music. And Kevin proved to us he doesn't have that passion. He already said he wasn't interested in doing it. You know what I'm saying? And he had no interest in her music. And that's why you don't see much of that in the documentary, even though we haven't seen it yet. But I'm going by the fan reviews. I'm going to link you guys to all of these reviews that, there's another one by a Facebook fan page called Whitney Houston Collectibles. It goes more in depth about the review, and it's very long, but it's very informative. And she was very fair and balanced with the review, and I'm going to link you guys to that one as well. But I want to read another review. It's very short and to the point, and it's by @Frank N as in Nancy Film on Twitter. He says, Kevin McDonald's documentary focuses only on Houston's personal life and drug use, curiously avoiding any details on her music or the music executives behind her success, such as Clive Davis, Narada Michael Walden, and David Foster. Wow.
So I wonder what Clive's going to say when we actually see him on screen, because I know he's a part of it. But he's only in there for a second. Like, they said Mama Sissy's only in there for a second.
Yeah, I read some spoilers about Clive's presence in the film, and it's very short. I'm not going to read off any spoilers here because there are probably people who still want to see it or anything or something like that. But yeah, he's in there very shortly, very, very shortly. Okay. And it's a documentary that I'm gonna pass on. If I watch it, I'm gonna bootleg it online. It's not getting no money out of me. And I'm just not behind this whatsoever.
And I was going to go see it again. I'm like Terry. I'm not disillusioned by my favorite scene. I don't expect anyone to not tell a story without bringing her trials and tribulations, but it just seems like that's all they're focusing on, and I think I might have to bow out. I was going to go see it, but I'm like, if I do see it, I'm going to have to see it. I'm going to have to stream it somewhere, or like you said, or get it on bootleg on YouTube or anywhere like that.
I'm torn now. It's like, here's a movie that is definitely still talking about her, definitely still shows the fact that she's relevant, but at the same time, I don't feel like the person who made it had the purest of intent, and from what I'm hearing about it, it's just not, it's not good.
It's not good, and
too many people are saying the same thing. That's why I'm changing my mind. Too many people saying the exact same.
And we're not trying to defer our listeners not to go watch the movie. If you want to go watch the movie and form your own opinion, that's fine. We just thought we share it from what we've read and things like that from our point of view, even though we haven't seen the movie. But I'm more into the fans' reviews than I am of the critics' reviews, because I know critics, they love to rave about dark, meaty type of documentaries or movies and stuff like that. So they tend to favor those and give them high reviews. So I just feel like,
particularly from directors that are already highly acclaimed too. They don't want to tear them down. So he's already highly acclaimed. So of course, they're already going to be like, yeah, he's great, no matter what.
Exactly.
And then, like you said, it's already kind of like this story filled with drama and all that. Oh yeah.
Because this movie, make no mistake, this movie was not.
But like you said, not to take away from anybody else wanting to see it, because I mean, after all, it is Whitney. I was gonna go see it.
Yeah, so it's just.
So yeah, I was gonna definitely go see it.
So I mean, specifically for fans. It was made. I mean, of course, I'm sure they want fans to come see it, but at the same time, they want people who may not have necessarily been diehard Whitney Houston fans to come see it just based on the dirt and the scandal that may have been revealed.
Exactly. And I want to go ahead and wrap this up, but before I do that, I want to let our listeners know that you are listening to our home panel. This is who you will hear all the time on our podcast going forward. Myself, Tameka, and Terry. They have been a wonderful team with me. I love them. I love their knowledge. I love their articulation and everything. And we're going to definitely do more podcasts, whether we're talking about Whitney's voice, her music, her impact, her charitable contributions. We have so much to talk about, don't you think? And
absolutely. There's always something. Like I told y'all before, every week since we've been doing this, starting out on Facebook, there has always been enough material for us to talk over an hour, and it just speaks to the level of relevance to today's culture that Whitney still continues to have 6 years after her passing.
Exactly. And we're going to work hard on this. We're going to try our best to get like special guests on. It's a lot of things we want to work on with the podcast and everything. It's hard to play her music because of copyright reasons. There are certain maybe live performances we could play. Yeah, we're not trying to get sued or anything like that. So just to let you guys know. But we're probably going to also create a special page, like YouTube page, just for the podcast. But I would still put them on my regular Whitney YouTube page. But I just wanted to let you guys know about that. But what are you guys' final thoughts about the documentary and all of that jazz?
I'm still deciding whether or not I want to go see it, because clearly we haven't heard good things about it.
Right.
But it's like I said before. When it comes to Whitney, I just always want to hear like what people have to say. What their reactions are, and then it's still Whitney.
It's still Whitney. I agree with that part.
That a full-length movie is still being made about her, and regardless of what the reviews are, and regardless of how she's conveyed in the movie, people are still gonna go see it. The movie is still gonna put butts in seats.
Yes.
And that just still and that just speaks to the power of this woman, the magnetism of her story. So
exactly.
I don't know if I'm gonna go see it.
Okay.
I may.
I respect your thoughts, Terry. I respect your thoughts. What about you, Tameka? Are you still with us? I don't think Tameka is still with us, but my final thoughts is... Oh, you're there, girl. We lost you for a second. Okay. Tameka, what are your final thoughts on about the documentary? Even though we haven't seen it, we're just going based on like what we've heard so far.
From what I've seen so far, again, I went into it being very optimistic and open, but from what I've seen so far, it does seem like all they want to do is focus on the negative, and it's just going to be a downer. So I don't think it's going to do anything to uplift her legacy or do anything for the fans.
I agree, and I would say...
I mean, not to take away from seeing it.
Right.
Like, I don't want to... That's the thing. I don't want to discourage anybody from seeing it, because again, I went into this with an open mind as well. It's just that the more I see it, the more I'm like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I just want to say, if nothing good comes from this documentary, at the least, I want people to walk away feeling a new compassion and sympathy for Whitney and what she went through. If nothing else comes out of it, since it doesn't seem to be too much about her artistry, philanthropy works, her moves as a businesswoman with her production company for films and things like that. But we're going to definitely talk about those on other podcasts because we have so much more to come.
Perhaps, to the people who don't see her as such, maybe it will humanize her.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, Terry and Tameka, I want to thank you so much for doing this with me. And you guys are the best, and I can't wait till we do the next one. We might try to do one, Sunday? Another one? Come back and do another one Sunday?
I definitely want to. Whether I go see it or not, I definitely... You know what? I'm going to go see it because both of you guys say that you're not. So in order for us to discuss this podcast, I feel like one person, at least one
Okay.
needs to have seen it.
Somebody on the inside. We do. You're right. Because we have a good forum here, so somebody got to see. Because I was going to stream it.
Bootleg. But yes, you guys, thank you so much for being on here with me tonight on this beautiful Monday evening. And I look forward to having you guys on the next podcast for the next topics in relation to our Queen Whitney Houston.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our podcast for tonight. As you see, we talked about the documentary, the album cover with Pusha T, the whole thing about how Whitney is treated against other male or white artists or celebrity personalities with drug addiction. And we talked about the Bible, the selling of her Bible. We're definitely going to come back and do more of these podcasts. And I hope you guys look forward to it. If there were any mishaps or vocal quality going on in the podcast, I do apologize. We will work on that in future references. But before I go, I definitely have to leave you with this beautiful performance of All the Men That I Need. I'm not sure if it's from the I'm Your Baby Tonight tour or the Bodyguard tour, but her voice is just so otherworldly. Thank you, you guys.